see everyone smiling, Rachel, and some shameless guilt. Well, shout out to the Will Stein group. You guys are all in the house today. Will, I always appreciate people coming, being present, and you guys all have your cameras on. So you guys officially are my new best friends. And
I
Allie
appreciate
always
hearing
puts her
that.
camera on. So look, it's the beginning of the second half of the year. And kind of before we go forwards, it's always good to look back. And, a yoga teacher once said this to me. They said, Shrag, the only thing looking back too much will do is hurt your neck, right? So like get what you can out of the rearview mirror, whether the first half of the year was great or it wasn't what you wanted to. You have to look at what happened to really be present to the future, right? And we'll be sending everyone out a review of our business plan, and we'll have that, I believe, next week. But what I wanted to cover today is obviously we have new faces and some old faces, is our Med-C process, right? If you look at the way the market is today, it's very competitive across the entire country, right? So understanding how to qualify somebody. Is this person a real client, right? How to engage with them authentically is more important than it ever was before. And I know a lot of agents, what I see is people mix up being busy with being productive, right? Because you have to realize like clients that are not the right fit for you, that are not seriously motivated to buy, are people that not only take up your time, they take up your money, they take up your resources. And the fourth one is the most important, they take up your energy. Do you know how frustrating it is to give up your weekends, your evenings with people that you know that are never going to buy a home? But they say to me, well, Shrag, I'm not going. I see Cassandra nodding her head. But the flip side is they say, well, Shrag, I don't have any clients. Well, my answer is always like, let's take that time and double down in lead gen, right? Contacting people in your sphere, reaching out to having strategic meetings with your vendors, even going and meeting more local businesses and just even doing a pop-up video, right? Like that's better than a bad client, right? So let's go through our Med-C process. And I'll kind of give you guys a quick backstory of how this all started. During the COVID lockdowns last year, I knew fundamentally, I coined it what was called the communication economy. Whoever knew how to communicate what they offered the most clearly based on what another person needs would win. So I realized that the same way of doing real estate had to change. So we came up with this Med-C process. The acronym Med-C stands for motivations, expectations, disappointments, and concerns. No matter where you go in life as a human being, you have these four fundamental things, right? So when you came here today, right, there was a motivation that had you show up here. There's something you're excited about happening as a result of being here, an expectation of what your time here would be like, past disappointments and trainings and other things that affect your present ability to make decisions in what you're doing, and concerns like, is this worth my time, right? So if you look at something so simple as even going to a restaurant, right, and Rachel and I are going out to meet for happy hour, right? And we're all going. So, there's a motivation for me to connect with her. I haven't seen Rachel in a while. What I'm excited about, laughing and having fun like we used to when we used to hang out a few years ago, right? My expectation would be that we can connect in the ways that we used to. My past disappointments were some of my friends have changed over the years. So I was worried if Rachel had changed too. And my concern would be, I didn't really have a concern. My concern is maybe it's not what I wanted, right? But if you go anywhere in life, everyone has these four drivers in any decision they make. And now if you're working with clients, this is how you understand the conversation that they want to have versus the one that we imagine in our head, right? I used to do large group trainings when I worked at Compass, and I'd be like, how many people here have telekinesis? No one would raise their hand, right? Now imagine going into a room full of 200 people, and after no one raised their hands, go, all of you guys are liars, every single one of you. And they'd all look at me, and like some people would be pretty pissed off. And I'm like, how many people are angry that I just called them a liar? A lot of hands just went up. And I would go, you're not lying because you guys constantly show up to people's houses and just start talking, right? You just start presenting. And you assume that the information you want is the assumption of what the client will need. And that's the fundamental disconnect, right? Same thing with buyers, same thing with sellers, right? So if you're going to an open house, a lot of times people are like, how many bedrooms, how many bathrooms, what neighborhood are you looking to be in? Buying real estate to people is so much more than that, especially today after this whole pandemic shift, right? So if you're going to a listing pitch, and the reason I say pitch is because a pitch is a two-way conversation. A presentation is what I'm doing today. And I'm not going to present the whole time because I want to open this up to a dialogue, right? So if I was meeting, let's see, who just showed up here? Betsy, right? I know Betsy's in her bed right now. If I was meeting Betsy, I would ask her, hey, Betsy, I'm coming to, we have an appointment today at 5 o'clock. Would it be okay if I asked you a couple questions? So when we were there, we could spend our time talking about what's most important to you.
Okay, you want me to answer?
Yeah, it's called role playing, right?
Okay. Yes. Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much.
Betsy, I know you were really excited when we first connected. What are you most excited about happening when your house sells and your primary motivation?
Oh, that's such a good question. I'm most excited about having freed up some money from taking care of this house so that I can do more traveling now that the world's opening up again.
So what I hear is most important to you is freeing up some equity, kind of having some flexibility to travel. Is there anything else that you're really excited about or motivated you to put your house on the market at this time?
To get the most that we possibly can
So
without,
you want to sell it?
yeah. Am I a seller? Yes, a seller. Yes. So to get the most money we possibly can without looking like we're crazily priced.
Got it. So you're looking to really take advantage of the market and sell at a peak, correct?
Yes. Yes.
Great.
Yes.
And Betsy, my next question is, what are the expectations of the agent you'll partner with in the sale of your home?
That they'll really listen to me, that I won't feel like a transaction. I won't feel like a number, that it'll be about me.
So ideally, what I hear you saying is you're looking for a great communication and collaborative experience.
Yes. Thank you.
Perfect. Is there anything else that's important to you with the person that you partner with?
I have my own visions of things. I realize agents, you all know what you're doing, and I totally respect that. But it doesn't mean that if you tell me to paint a wall pink and you say it'll get me $100,000 more, I don't know that I believe that. So I might want some proof and some statistics as to why you might suggest things that I may turn my nose up at.
Got it. So you just want to make sure that anything anyone suggests to you, that there's actual fact-based evidence pretty much in what we're recommending to kind of correlate the dollar to dollar return or the benefits so you can understand it.
Exactly. Thank you. That's excellent. Yes.
Betsy, what it really sounds like is you want an agent that will include you in part of the process versus one that will just tell it to you. Does that kind of sum it up for you?
Yes, it does perfectly.
Got it. And the next question we ask is, people are always kind of a little caught off guard, and we want to understand what people's past disappointments are so we never repeat them. So have you ever had any past disappointments working with an agent or any service provider in the past that ideally you want to avoid this time around?
Yes. Oh, I love this question. So, I would say not getting called back. And sometimes I can get a little neurotic and anxious. So I might text a bunch of times, and even if you're busy, I would just appreciate, so sorry, in a meeting, I'll be back to you in 2 hours. I just want to know that you're there through the process. And that's been lacking in other experiences I've had.
It sounds like you want some form of structured communication. And again, going back to your expectations, the hit or miss with you sounds like having the right communication where you feel comfortable throughout the process. Is that correct?
Yes. And included. Yes.
Got it. And ultimately, I know everything's open back up, but do you have any concerns with a couple different things, right? Putting your home on the market, having a lot of people through it, and ultimately, if your house sells in the next 7 to 10 days, what you're going to do?
No, if I'm so lucky as my house to sell in the next 7-10 days, I'll figure it out. And I would just like them to wear booties, not shoes off, because it's still got their socks, which is yucky. So booties, and just we'll just sanitize, and I'll sanitize when I come back in the house. But no, I don't want anything to interfere with selling the house. So I'm not too worried.
And if your house sells in the next 7 to 10 days, would that create any concerns for you?
A little anxiety, but then I would believe that I'm meant to move faster. So I will rely on you to help me get going in the next direction too.
Got it. So just want to sum this up because I want our time to be focused on these 4 areas that are important to you. Really what you're excited about, Betsy, I want to make sure I heard all this correct, is number one, that you're able to free up equity, that you have the freedom to travel, and that you want to sell at the peak of the market. The
Yes.
expectations you have in an agent is it be a collaborative experience with structured communication. And based on your disappointments, communication is going to be where we really win this together. And the concerns, you really don't have concerns, but you're really open-minded to the fact that you might have to move rather quickly.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, great. I look forward to meeting you tomorrow at 5 o'clock.
And me as well. Thank you so much.
Got it. All right. Now, one person unmute themselves next. Don't all be excited and hit the button at once.
All right, June, you're up, June. You got it.
All right.
I love a person that calls other people out. I don't have to do it today. Thanks, Will. June, my man, welcome. So look, after receiving this information, right, this is where the money's made. Now, based on what Betsy said, how would you structure your pitch? Like, what would you bring that would be most important to her?
So her focus was, or her main motivation was behind traveling now that things are opening up again. If I was trying to pitch, I mean, the things that come to mind are probably I'd want to delve into a little bit more of like a general idea of places where Americans can go, because the world doesn't open up fully for all of that. What would I want to bring specifically? She also wants someone who's going to be communicative and like be a part of a collaborative team that actually listens. Physically, I think I would probably bring something where I could take notes just to make sure that I get everything, that, you know, it's clear that we're on the same team. Is there something specific that I should bring?
No, listen, this is June. One, I thank you for volunteering, right? Or Will
Right.
for volunteering you. But the reason I wanted to share this with you is what somebody says is not always what you hear, right? And this is where you really grow your business and make money, right? So look, if you really listen to what Betsy said in these little words, is you can't just tell me anything. I need proof, right? So whatever price you recommend, you need strong statistics. You really need to be able to talk about the market. And her need to feel included means you need to prepare your pitch in a way that you ask a lot of questions and she answers them for you, right?
Yeah.
If you talk at her the whole time and you present to her, you're not going to be in rapport. So here are things that people don't realize. If you omit this process, when people say, I don't think about it, it doesn't feel right, I just don't know, you didn't answer that med C, right? Because we call it the iceberg, like in leadership, right? Like, you know, the Titanic, they said it's what's underneath the iceberg that sunk the ship. So above people's iceberg, people ask, are you the agent that's going to sell my house fastest for the most money? Underneath that iceberg are that whole med C thing, right? So you're going to need to bring comps and know them really well and understand how to present the market to her, where she's answering the questions and she's included in it. Number two, you need to bring a written communication plan that structures how you'll speak to her throughout the whole time, right?
You mean like do you mean like a general outline of these are the topic points I want to touch on?
We'll send us an email and we'll send you a written communication plan, and I will email you a copy that you guys can all give out to people, right? So you want to make sure that you have a written communication plan, right? And the other thing is you don't want to start solving the problems on there, right? I would say, so you're looking for this. If someone says that, You don't want to be like, oh yeah, and I have a written communication plan and I'm going to do this and this and this. Remember, telling people what you're going to do is never going to win this process, right? So for her, everything you know needs to have facts behind it, right? If you're painting a wall, you need to be able to tell her, look, there's not a dollar for dollar ROI, but Betsy, if you came into the room, right? If you came into the room, what would make you feel more like home? A home that was dated like this or a home that looked like this and felt like this? Would those feelings have value for you? Would those feelings make you feel like it was more? So you have to walk her through this process, right? So in the end, if you go there and you present to her, if you pitch to her in the way that she wants to be pitched, you have the conversation that she wants to have, right? And ultimately share her the information that she finds most valuable. How is she going to feel?
Confident.
Comfortable.
Yeah.
Right? And is that very different than the process most people do today?
Yes.
Got it. So a lot of this process also, David Severance, our leadership coach, he's on here with those beautiful green trees behind him, right? David, mute yourself for a second and just explain to people like underneath the iceberg, like really how that works for people, right? And why it's so important to connect with people in a way that they want to be connected to.
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Great to be with you. The iceberg is an analogy we use when we think about the depth of the people who are around us. And when you look at the iceberg, there's a little bit that's above the water, and that's the part of a person that's actually visible. The clothes they wear, the language that they use, maybe the food that they eat or other activities that they engage in. And while those give you some kind of a clue into what that person is or who that person is and what they care about, the stuff that's underneath the water is really where the depth of their personality and their experience and their interests lie. And so when we're talking about motivations, expectations, disappointments, concerns, those are all under the water together with other things like values and ethics and ideas about trust and respect and so many other things. And so if we're only dealing with people on the surface level, we're not really touching the core of who they are. And if it's just like you're buying cigarettes at a store, you don't really need to touch the core of who they are. But if you're helping somebody buy or sell a home, you're going to have a multi-month or maybe multi-year relationship with them. It's really important for you to connect what's underneath the iceberg. And that's why the Med-C gives you one easy method to connect with an awful lot that's underneath there. And once you've had that conversation, then your pitch becomes a response, not a declaration.
And that's where the magic happens, right? So what we want to do is we want to watch two people role play, right? And then from there, we're going to have a third person give the observation of what exactly they heard and how they would pitch, right? So look, we did the seller version, right? Now you need the buyer version, right? So I want two people to try this through buying, right? Like if you're a buyer, how would you go about doing this? Because for buyers, this is even more important than it is in many ways for sellers, right? Sellers, at least they have the market on their side and the lack of inventory on their side. Buyers, how much favorable is there for a buyer today? Nothing. There's nothing great about buying a home today besides the fact that I think I just entered the matrix. So all my matrix jokes just paid off. If you're a buyer today, the only thing exciting to you is the fact that someone's been telling you that there's going to be a historically low interest rate for the last 3 years. This is it, guys. This is the bottom, right? And then it went to 4%. Guys, this is it. The rates are going like, so like there's more to that than that, right? So if anyone uses this word, right? If, right? If I find the right deal, if I get the right price, what do you do with these people? It's a hint. It's what Ronald Reagan said when he had the Just Say No to Drug campaign. Just say no. You can't work with these people. Don't do it. Unless you birthed the person, right? Unless you're birthed by the person, or you married them and you're related through like a piece of paper, right? Like there's a contractual agreement. Do not take people out for if. If my wife said, hey, Chirag, let's go look at homes. If we find the right one, we could move. I don't really have much of a choice if I have a real estate license, right? I have to take my wife out, right? I can't say, sorry, honey, you're not really qualified. And, but if you have people like this and you're starting to prioritize your time, to go back to what we're saying, time, money, resources, and most importantly, your energy, this is very frustrating. And the part I want to get through to this is this. As soon as you take an unrealistic person out, you have now validated that their unrealistic dream is real. Do you guys realize that? When you take an overpriced listing, you have now validated that that person's price that they potentially might be on drugs when they came up with is now real. So what do? Do more marketing, do more open house. What's going on? Do these people generally treat you well or bad? Bad. The worst relationships we have in our real estate career are with the clients that treat us the worst. Or the clients that have unrealistic expectations, right? So who wants to pre-qualify a buyer like this? Diane Cannon, you're up. You got to unmute yourself, Diane. Or no, we have to unmute you.
Okay.
Diane, okay, there's one. Let's see, who else? Allie, you could be the other person.
So
This is my worst nightmare.
Now I'm really happy I did it.
so I'm the agent, is that correct?
Yeah, Allie could be the unrealistic buyer.
Unrealistic buyer. So Allie, a friend of mine referred me to you because they said they're interested in finding a home in Laguna Beach. And I just, have you been engaging in looking at houses? Where are you in the buying process? Have you written any offers? Have you been pre-qualified? Do you know what your price point is?
I don't know what my price point is. I've been pretty much stalking Zillow and looking at everything I possibly can, from like 500,000 to like 3 million.
Well, that's quite a range. And you haven't been pre-qualified. I would suggest that you contact a lender that I use with my own personal lending, along with many of my clients they've been very happy with, to kind of narrow that down. Because if we don't narrow that down, we can't necessarily get into homes that you may want to take a look at unless we can show that you can purchase them.
Okay, so it's a requirement to go out to be pre-approved? Like they won't show me a place?
Many times the agents require that. There's a lot of effort getting a house ready to present it to a buyer. People have kids, pets, so on and so forth. And they really want to feel that there's a large percentage of possibility that you might be interested in the house. If you're 90 and you're looking at a 3-flight home, 3 levels, that's not your animal to be purchasing. So they really want to narrow it down. And part of that is understanding that you have the financial means to purchase it.
I guess what I'm concerned about for that is just having someone run my credit, or have to keep getting pre-approved if I'm going to take a while to find something. And I don't want like my credit score to dip every time.
Generally, they don't do a hard credit report on you. They do a soft one.
I'm going to pause you right here. Pause, right?
What?
There's a good lesson we all have to learn out of this, and you can.
Better be good, Chirag.
It is good. Guys, you see what's happening here, right? Like what the dynamic of this conversation has been. Diane is telling her how the process is, and Allie's resisting the process, correct?
Correct.
Right. So I'll give you a quick rephrase, right? Hey, Allie, like, my friend referred us, we got connected via Will, right? Like, have you been looking at any homes online? That's a great place to start. And that was a great opening question, Diane, right? And she goes, I'm stalking Zillow between 500,000 and 3 million. Great. Like, that's a large price range. What motivated you to look at all these this big gap in pricing, right? And then you could start asking her these questions, right? And you could say, hey, how would you feel if you found the perfect house because the market is competitive, that you lost that house because you didn't get pre-approved? And based on how she answers that question, you can see if the person says, well, I'm okay with that, it's not meant to be, then I'm not meant to spend my time with you either, right? But if you can go through what motivated you to do this, what are your expectations of the market, right? This is a new one for you guys, right? What are your expectations of the market and the agent you partner with in helping you find a home? And then you go to disappointments, then you go to concerns, and then Diane can evaluate if she is the right client, right? Our goal on this initial call is not to give these people the reality of what it is to understand if their reality is distorted or realistic, right?
Well, you're correct in the sense of sometimes we prejudge, and especially realtors classically do that because, we're pretty knowledgeable about when people are just wasting look like they're wasting their time with you. But, one of the things does maybe Allie would come up and say, well, I'm thinking I'm going to be purchasing it as a second home. But if I purchase it as full-time residence, I want something bigger. I can afford to get something higher. So I thought about that afterwards, that she, there can be times that, they sound like a screwball, but yet, like you said, if you ask more in-depth questions in regards to the range and so on, so you kind of flesh it out a little better.
Yeah, and look, it's when people are doing things, no one's wasting their time doing things for nothing. It's understanding the why behind their what, right? What they're doing might be crazy to you, but the why behind it could make a lot of sense. But a lot of times we just rush to judgment, right? Mm-hmm. So when you're working with a buyer and you ask a buyer today, like, hey, being a buyer in this market, based on the news, your experience, what you're seeing online, what are your expectations of the market and purchasing a home? You'll be amazed as to what people say, right? And then when people go through this all, it's a very simple question. You shared with me that you want to do A, B, and C. Like, if this didn't happen, what is your plan B, right? And if you're like, I don't know, I always use myself as an example. I sold my house in Westchester and I moved up to Westport, Connecticut. Someone asked me, Shreg, what are you going to do if your home doesn't sell? I laughed at them. I'm like, that's a joke, right? My home is going to sell. I'll have to do whatever I need to, but I'm moving, right? I've decided to move here. I'm going to buy a house here and my kids need to start school here, right? So that's a must for me. Right? Like Tony Robbins says, it make your shoulds must and anything will happen. So look, I want to leave you guys on this note. Always ask the questions and understand the initial Med-C process is to understand, like David says, what are those human drivers and all those things under the iceberg. So the second time when you have a more professional conversation, you know how to address the people's number one specific needs. The second thing you want to be able to address, is this the right client for you? Right? You guys can't be running around wasting your gas. As you see, the gas prices went up. I was in San Diego last week. When I saw those $4.50 a gallon for my friends on the East Coast, almost had a heart attack. I'm like, what is this, right? So remember, time, money, resources, and the energy that goes to it. That bad energy that you lose working with an unrealistic client will affect all areas of your life, both professional and personal. So go through the Med-C. We'll continue to role play this. I suggest you take the communication. We'll also, don't email us. We'll attach the communication plan to the video in your client portal. In the next week.
In the chat? Does everybody see it up here in the chat? Okay.
We'll stay on here, Rachel, for a minute for people to click it. And look, the other thing is within the next 7 to 14 days, small groups of you will start getting emails that we're going to start transitioning you into our app. It's almost ready. We're really excited. Our community boards will be live. So look out for an email from Rachel within the next 2 weeks, right? To start onboarding a few of you guys in small groups over. So I hope everyone has a great day. Please use this communication plan. It'll help you build healthy boundaries. And most importantly, it'll create a better experience for your clients. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. And P.S. Rachel and her mom will be doing Agent Talk tomorrow. And if you've never seen Rachel and Fran talk, believe me, it's beyond the knowledge. You'll get entertainment value out of this too. It's a priceless experience. So we'll see you guys tomorrow at 9:30. And for those of you guys who don't know, Fran literally took 22 listings in her first like 3 weeks at Compass. This woman is a listing machine, and she's going to be sharing with us how she gets listings, kind of the process she works with her clients and team. And it's something that you guys don't want to miss out on. So as always, invite a friend, and we'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye, guys.